I'm a self-promoter. I'm a very good-looking guy. I'm an idol to some. I'm a brainless idiot. I'm your daddy. I'm a psychopath. I'm unstable. I'm a curmudgeon's curmudgeon. I'm an animal. I'm a tyrant. I'm a physical peon. I'm a man. I'm incompetent with women. I'm one of the great Casanovas of all time. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a coward. I'm a nut job.
Welcome to Termini Crashes Out, an NBA podcast with Justin Termini, brought to you by DCLA. And now it's time for Termini to crash out.
All right, thanks for staying up late with me. And I didn't want to start early. I started early the other day with the Lakers game and the Rockets game. I didn't want to start early again because I shut the television off a couple of days ago with like 24 seconds left. And then you had the end of the game where Jokic goes up and he approaches Jaden McDaniels after Jaden McDaniels made the little layup. And I missed the altercation. Then I went on the air and I wasn't able to break that down because I didn't even know that it happened. Tonight, we did not get anything like that. So we take it all the way up to the end of the game. We'll hit on everything throughout the course of the evening, including the Nuggets and the Timberwolves to lead. Then we'll get into that Pistons game where they end up losing. They're now down 3-1 to the Orlando Magic. We'll wrap it up with just a brief thought on the conclusion of the Suns season after they get swept by the Oklahoma City Thunder in a series that just really couldn't hold my interest at all. But I had said this the last couple of days leading up into this game here this evening. The best thing in all of sports to me is watching an all-time great with their back up against the wall. And what do they do? How do they respond to all that pressure? And certainly Jokic is an all-time great. And certainly he had the media waiting to pounce. He had the fans waiting to pounce. He had the critics waiting to pounce. And rightfully so. He did not have a good series up to this point. Denver has had a poor series. He's supposed to be the best player in the world. He's getting MVP votes. So I wanted to see how he would respond to that, to all the pressure, all the heat. And he wasn't necessarily LeBron circa 2012, right? Well, LeBron went out there against Boston in 2012, Game 6, with all the pressure in the world and had what I think was the greatest game of LeBron's career with 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. But Jokic still got the job done here tonight. 27 points, 12 rebounds, 16 assists, 9 of 15. The three-point shot still isn't falling, so I think that's a concern here moving forward. But he was absolutely brilliant, and that's, I think, the greatness of Jokic, is you didn't even sense that he was that good. Then at the end of the night, you look up, and he's efficient, 9 of 15, 27 points, 12 rebounds, 16 assists. To give you a triple-double like that, that's pretty impressive when your back is up against the wall. And, you know, it's funny how things work out as well, because I think the takeaway for many of us, at least when the game still was competitive, was Spencer Jones, right? So you're sitting there prior to the game here tonight, and Denver announces that Aaron Gordon is out with the sore calf, and Spencer Jones ends up getting the start in his stead. And Spencer Jones was absolutely fantastic, especially in the third quarter. Spencer Jones, the game of his life. Now, I didn't look up his career high. Maybe I should have done that. Maybe the broadcast should have told me. But 20 points, 7 of 9 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. It felt like they all came in the third quarter. And every now and again, you need one of those guys to step up in order to get you over the finish line. And again, you're not anticipating much of him. I think most people's idea of Spencer Jones prior to tonight's game probably was, oh, he's the dude that ran into Jokic and cost him the 16 games earlier in the year when he backed up into his own teammate. Well, I mean, you had Grant Hill during this broadcast at one point when he was talking about Spencer Jones saying, this third quarter is all Spencer Jones. I mean, that's how they described the third quarter. Think of, Jamal Murray, Jokic, all those guys. At one point, like Jokic ended up leading Denver in scoring at the end of the night with the 27 points. But at one point, deep into the game, even into the fourth quarter, the leading scorer, when I looked down at the box score at one point, was Spencer Jones. So Spencer Jones steps up, has the game of his life. It forces a game 6 here back in Minnesota. And really, there were a bunch of good performances. It wasn't just about, Jokic and Jamal Murray at the top. top and Spencer Jones. I thought, a really good sign was the aggressiveness level of Cameron Johnson, 18 points, 8 of 13. And again, it wasn't just, I think, the numbers that you saw in the box score with what Cam Johnson was able to put down. It was the fact he was as aggressive as we've seen Cam Johnson maybe all season. And it wasn't just aggressive with his shot, like he was getting the rebound, he was out and running, going to the hoop. He was knocking down threes. He wasn't hesitating with his shot. So I think, that, who knows if Spencer Jones carries it over into next game. Hopefully he won't even need to, because you'll have Aaron Gordon. But Cam Johnson is a guy, you get his confidence going in the right direction. That'll help you in a game 6, a game 7, and God willing for Denver, if they advance to the next round against San Antonio, in all likelihood, San Antonio. So I thought Cam Johnson was good as well. And you kind of catch a little bit of a break there because, again, Jokic at the end of the night, even though I guess maybe you're not thinking he played that well because he didn't take 20-something shots. He did it with the assist, 27 points, 9 of 15. Like, Jokic is capable of playing better. Like, I wouldn't have called this end of the night the Jokic game or the Jamal Murray game. So you got a lot from the supporting cast here. Cam Johnson, Spencer Jones, Christian Brown turned it on a little bit in the second half. Even Valanciunas after the horrible start. I mean, Valanciunas, he had 3, I think, offensive fouls in the first 3 minutes that he was out there on the floor. He was grotesque. And then he ended up having some good minutes and scoring a couple of baskets after the slow start. So you got supporting cast roles. That doesn't necessarily happen when you go on the road, as you guys know, in the NBA. That's where you're going to need Jokic. You're going to need Jokic and Jamal Murray the next 2 games because, 1, it's about your stars on the road, not the role players. And then 2, in a game 7, it's about your stars. It's not about the role players. Now, it's almost all role players now for Minnesota, unfortunately, because of all the injuries. And at least we dodged another one there with Naz Reid, who looked like he was going to miss a significant, he looked like the way he was writhing in pain, looked like he was going to be out the rest of the series. And you're going, oh no, Dante DiVincenzo, Anthony Edwards, now Naz Reid. The injury didn't look that bad, but his reaction did. He goes back into the locker room, but then he came out and he ends up, finishing the game and playing a couple of minutes towards the tail end of the game. But, they're very thin right now. But you wanted to see, hey, how does Ayo Dosunmu bounce back? 68 combined points over the last 2 games that he played. 43 points last game off the bench was fantastic. I mean, I think he was a perfect 12 of 12 from the line. He was 13 of 17 from the field. I think he was 5 of 5 maybe from 3. I mean, the guy was absolutely berserk. He looked like a better version of Anthony Edwards, but you knew heading in tonight that it wasn't going to catch Denver by surprise because they had seen it in 2 consecutive games. Now, he still played really well. He had 18 points on 7 of 14. He was their second leading scorer outside of Julius Randle, but counting on him and when he is the focal point to do it consistently, that's really what separates the really good players from the superstars is the role players like Dosunmu can do it every now and again. The great players like Anthony Edwards does it every single night. So that's kind of what you're losing in this situation. So they did a better job on Ayo Dosunmu. Nobody really stepped up. The third quarter was an absolute disaster for Minnesota. And again, the great part is that they can get better from Jokic, they can get better from Jamal Murray, but the role players stepped up in this one. Hopefully that, foreshadows a little bit of confidence heading into game 6 with the help that they got from Cam Johnson, from Spencer Jones. Now, for Minnesota, the pressure now shifts to them in game 6. Now, of course, Denver's going to have pressure again because their season's over if they lose. And at least they go out with a little bit more grace than if they had showed no fight tonight. But there's a ton of pressure now on Minnesota because Minnesota is at home. Game 7 is in Denver. You don't have your best player. You don't have your leader. So you lose that game, and it seems like the series would probably be over if you're going back to Denver for game 7. Now, a couple of years ago, that wasn't the case. Denver builds a 20-point lead in game 7 in 2024. Minnesota comes back. I'm not sure you can do that in the game 7 if Anthony Edwards isn't playing. And then a guy like Dante DiVincenzo isn't playing. So all the pressure in the world is going to be on Minnesota here in game 6 to make sure they don't have to go back and face Denver in a game 7. They're going to need Julius Randle to be a lot better, even though the numbers at the end of the night. Again, he finished with 27 points, but I don't think anybody would say that he was fantastic tonight, even though he started out really well. I think he scored the first 6 points in the game for Minnesota, but he could certainly be a lot better. Naz Reid, hopefully he's not too banged up. He's going to need to be better off the bench. Desumu's going to need to be better. Jaden McDaniels, who's done a lot of talking. Okay, you did a lot of talking. You're up 3-1. We love the talking. I support it because it's given us a great rivalry, but you can't then crap the bed in the last 3 games if you're Jaden McDaniels and lose this series. Then you're going to look like an absolute fool. So I think they still have enough. I mean, I just rattled off a bunch of guys: Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Dosunmu. Bones Highland can get hot. Terrence Shannon got some good minutes at the end of the game, made some shots. So maybe that gives him a little bit of a feel heading into game 6 as well. So they still have enough to do it. The reason I would say, it's a game 6 is a must winner for Minnesota is Denver just has so much experience in these spots. And I know that Minnesota was in this spot 2 years ago in 2024, but it's a little bit of a different team just because of all the injuries. And Denver has just played in a million game 7s. There might not be a team more well equipped to face a game 7. They had a game 7 last year against Oklahoma City. There was a game 7 in 2024, as I mentioned, against this Minnesota team. There was multiple game 7s when they came back from 3-1 down. In fact, they're trying to come back from 3-1 down right now. They're the last team to come back from 3-1 down to the postseason. They did it twice in the bubble. So they have, 2019, I believe they went to 7 games with Portland. That's where CJ McCollum had 37 points in game 7 in Denver, and Denver ended up losing. So they've been in this spot a lot. So you'd have to feel confident in that situation. No Anthony Edwards, game 7 in Denver. And we need a game 7. Bottom line is, in this series where we got 2 teams that hate each other for once, thank the heavens, after, 15 years of the buddy crap, we have 2 teams that dislike each other. We need a game 7 for that. And the dream scenario, I was talking about this earlier today on Sirius XM NBA radio. The dream scenario in this one, and I know the Timberwolves fan wouldn't want to hear it. The dream scenario, like the juiciest scenario, isn't even game 7. It's a 1-point game. And, somebody's got the ball with 10 seconds left. The juiciest scenario is like, hey, 10-point lead, Denver pulls away late, and we get somebody on Denver with 5 seconds left, is wide open and goes in for a dunk to kind of rub it in and create some more friction. That's kind of what we need here. We need that, but we don't need that. What we need is a game 7, but that would kind of be a fun way to end the series, almost a la a couple of years ago, where Al Horford calls the timeout, right? The timeout, because Boston was on a run in game 1. Miami came back to win it. Jimmy Butler does the timeout to him. I think then in game 6, when Boston came all the way back to tie it up at 3, then Horford does the timeout back, and then Jimmy Butler gave him a little timeout sign in game 7 as Miami ended up winning in Boston. This stuff is good for the league. Hopefully we get 7 games of it. So that wasn't the most exciting game later tonight, but it was probably the most important one just because the legacy of Jokic was on the line. And the fun part about it is Jokic can't get away with just one game where his legacy is on the line or his resume is on the line. Jokic now has to do it 2 more times. So we get 3 consecutive Jokic referendums on his legacy in a row. So that was fun tonight from that regard. We get to do it again on Wednesday night, and then we get to do it again over the weekend if they do force a game 7. And again, the best thing in all of sports, all-time great, back against the wall. How do they handle it? We get to see that 2 more times after we saw it tonight from Jokic with 27, 12, and 16, and a lot of help from Cam Johnson and a lot of help from Spencer Jones, which came out of nowhere. So that kind of makes up for the injury that he gave Jokic earlier in the season. So that's game 1. Game 2, and this one was a lot of fun. I mean, this one, I'm on the edge, and I didn't even have a rooting interest in this one. I was stressed out through this one. And here's how I'll paint this one, okay? And I see your stuff in the chat. I'll address it at the end of the show if you want to leave me a note, and then you could leave them all on YouTube, and that's where I'll get back to you by writing. And again, I know there's still some kinks to work out here. Technology-wise, I'm an absolute idiot. I wish I did this years ago and started this station because I am having a lot of fun doing it. But I love history, okay? And we are on the verge of a historic upset. So I guess from that sense, I would root for Orlando in this series. The only reason I wouldn't root for Orlando is I like teams that take the regular season seriously to win because I think it sends a bad message if you kind of coast through the regular season, you're the seventh or eighth seed, and then you beat a team that's taken the regular season seriously the entire time. So that's one reason I would root against Orlando and root for Detroit. The other reason is just the Pistons fan. To me, that's not a random fan base. That's a great sports city. That's a city that hasn't had anything for 20 years. It's been incompetent basketball really ever since around 2008, 2009. So I feel bad for that fan base that they've gone through all these rough years and now they're in a spot where something to be excited about and they're going to get embarrassed perhaps here in the first round. But, I love history. And if you're a history fan of the sport, you want to see history unfold. And this Pistons team won 60 games. This Pistons team is a one seed. The Magic won 45 games. They're the eighth seed. And yet right now, we have Orlando up 3-1 in their series after they get the 94-88 win tonight. And here's the list of teams since the NBA moved to best of 7 in the first round that have blown a series as the one seed against an 8 seed. All right, so this is the list. It's the Dallas Mavericks, famously in 2007, who lost to the We Believe Warriors. It's the Spurs in 2011, who lost in 6 games to Memphis. Then it's the Bulls in 2012 and the Bucks in 2013. And the Bucks lost in 5 games. I mean, they got crushed. But here's the difference. And here's the reason why what is happening to Detroit is far worse than what happened the last 2 times. A 1 seed fell to an 8 seed, which was Chicago in 2012 and Milwaukee in 2023. At least they had a little bit of an excuse. Like the 2012 Bulls lost Derrick Rose to the ACL. I think that was in game 1, right? When he went down with that. And then the Bucks, they lost Giannis for a couple of games in 2023 after I think that's the series where he fell on his tailbone, right? So when they lost to the Heat. What's Detroit's excuse? Detroit's been fully healthy. Detroit's one of the healthiest teams in the entire NBA. In fact, what made that loss so bad tonight for the Pistons, not only did they fall down 3-1, but Franz Wagner was easily the best player on the floor for both teams. He was the best player on the Magic. He was better than anybody that was playing for the Pistons. And, to me, when he's healthy, he's their best player. I know Paolo has the higher upside. Paolo was the number 1 overall pick. Franz Wagner is the best player on that team when he's fully healthy. He only played 24 minutes, and he sat out the entire fourth quarter with some calf tightness. And, so you lose to the Magic when they don't have their best player. And also, Paolo, if you view him as the second best player, depending on how you view Desmond Bane, Paolo shot 4 of 18 from the field. He finished with 18 points. He got to the line a bunch. I think he got to the line 13 times, 10 of 13. But that's what makes it so bad for Detroit. Not only do you lose 3-1, or you're down 3-1 right now, you lost as a 60-win team as a 1 seed in a must-win game to the 8th seed who didn't have their best player in Franz Wagner and the guy that was the best player on the floor in that game in the first half. And then your other star shot 4 of 18 in Banchero, and you still ended up losing the game. And the funny part was, like we were talking about, Spencer Jones was the unsung hero for Denver tonight. Really, it was the night of the unsung hero. Who is the unsung hero from Orlando? A guy maybe, and now I think you guys are diehards because it's 1:30 a.m. Eastern time, 1:38 a.m. Eastern time, and you're listening to this, right? So you are the hardcore NBA fan. So you probably know who Jamal Cain is. But the average NBA fan that just watches the postseason, they're sitting there, they're going, who the hell is this guy? I mean, we saw the Pistons season ending perhaps at the hands of the Magic because of a guy named Jamal Cain, who's a kid that wasn't drafted a couple of years ago. He signed a couple of 2-way contracts. He played 40 games for the Magic this year, averaged about 12 minutes. And yet, because Franz Wagner has that injury in the second half, he's got to be out there. And that kid was all over the place. I mean, he guarded Cade defensively, and gave him absolute fits. He was all over Cade Cunningham. He's athletic as hell. You're looking at the guy saying, how is this guy a two-way guy? And then he probably had the dunk of the year. I don't often get up for anything if I'm sitting here just watching the game or make a noise. I verbally made a noise and moved on my couch when Jamal Cain had that dunk on Jalen Duren. I mean, that's one of the great dunks of all time, considering the situation. Postseason, going up against a 60-win team. It's the fourth quarter. Nobody can score. Who you did it on? He didn't do it on, he didn't do it on Jose Alvarado. He didn't do it on somebody that's 6 feet tall. He did that on Jalen Duren, who is a mountain of a man. You stand next to Jalen Duren, he is a mountain of a man. He threw it down on him. That's one of the great dunks in NBA history, especially to do it in the postseason. It felt like Scottie Pippen on Patrick Ewing. Now, it doesn't have the name brand with Pippen on Ewing. That is still, and I think Angel Reese, who, again, you got that whole subplot where I guess she's maybe seeking attention, but she's dating Wendell Carter, and she used to date Jalen Duren. She posted it, I think, on social media from what I saw. Not that anybody should care, but what a dunk. And that's one of the issues, is you're getting dunked on by Jamal Cain if you're Jalen Duren. He has been nowhere to be found. Jalen Duren's been a mess. We're now 4 games into this series. You can't tell me one good game that Jalen Duren has had. 12 points, 8 rebounds tonight, 5 of 8 from the floor. And it's funny because he's a free agent after this year. His contract expires after this season. It is going to be so interesting as to how that is handled, because that guy was a stud all regular season. I thought he was the 3rd best center behind only Jokic and Wembanyama, and he has been absolutely abysmal here in this series. He's getting his butt kicked by Wendell Carter Jr., and he's going to be a free agent after this year. So it's really interesting. And at least he's out there playing, because I think Peyton Watson, the word is, and this is disgusting, but Peyton Watson, there's a lot of talk that Peyton Watson not coming back from that hamstring, even though he's capable of maybe doing so for Denver, because Peyton Watson wants to get paid in the offseason, and he doesn't want to hurt his status. So keep that in mind. That's a Rich Paul client as well. You think he's sitting out, Peyton Watson, if he can help LeBron, if he's on the Lakers right now? You think he's sitting out with that same situation and milking it, trying to get paid? If that's the case. Again, I don't want to full out accuse him of that, but that's the word behind the scenes. Maybe he's milking it a little bit because he doesn't want to hurt his value. He wants to make sure that he's healthy. He gets a contract. So you think he's doing that for the Lakers? His agent is Rich Paul? I would say maybe not. But anyway, Jalen Duren, that's, maybe the biggest issue here with Detroit. It's not it, though. I mean, they're way too sloppy with that basketball. I would say that's probably the main, the fact they can't hit an outside shot and how sloppy they were. I mean, Cade didn't shoot well. He was 7 to 23, but even worse than not shooting well with Cade, because that stuff that comes and goes, you can't be sloppy with the ball. That's 3 consecutive games. He's been an absolute mess. 7 turnovers in game 2, 9 turnovers in game 3, and then he had 8 turnovers tonight, including the sloppiest first quarter you will ever see, which got him off to a really bad start. They basically won the rest of the game after the horrific start where they were down 10, 11, 12 points, almost before you could even blink. But the turnovers, it's just been a mess. I mean, they had 20 as a team. You're not winning in the postseason on the road if you commit 20 turnovers, especially if you're not a good shooting team. They can't shoot. Plus, you're allowing the other team to force 20 turnovers, 20 extra chances. And Orlando only had 10 turnovers. So you created double. That's the difference in the game right there. It was close enough. You don't turn the ball over 20 times. Give them 10 extra possessions compared to them giving you just 10 overall. Double them up in that department. You probably win that game. You're not going to win that way. And they've been sloppy now 3 games in a row, especially Cade Cunningham. And, unfortunately, Cade wasn't just bad with the turnovers. He wasn't good shooting either. I mean, especially down the stretch. And Cade's, this was my argument again, and I voted for Cade top 5 MVP. But this was my argument, towards the tail end of the season before he got hurt, when everybody was debating Cade against Luka, against Jokic, against Wembanyama, against SGA. It's Cade has too many games where he shoots like that. He just disappears. It's a la Jason Tatum early in his career, where Tatum would have like random games where he'd be like 4 of 18, 3 of 15. Cade has those games. SGA doesn't. Jokic doesn't. Wembanyama doesn't. Cade has those games, and he's had a couple of those games recently. 7 of 23 tonight, plus the 8 turnovers. Bad. 2 of 11 in the second half during, what do they call that, nut crunching time? 0 of 5 in the fourth quarter. Can't have that as a top 5 MVP guy. Again, I voted for him 5th. You can't do that as one of the 5, 6, 7 best players in the league. He was a no-show, and he's going to take heat for this. Now, he's not going to take the heat that like Jokic will take if Denver loses, or if Cleveland takes Donovan Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell loses the heat he'll take, or Brunson in New York, just because of the age. Like Cade could still use, still a young guy, not even, 25 yet, still have, a long way to go. My second, but like, again, he's going to get criticized, but not to the level of Jokic, Donovan Mitchell, Brunson, guys like that. Those guys will get torched. Cade will get criticized, and it'll be the first like really hard lump of his career. And it'll pale in comparison to losing 28 consecutive games. There you were getting laughed at with Cade, but you also felt bad. In this situation, you're going to criticize without feeling bad. You can't be a 60-win team, the 1 seed, lose in the first round of the postseason, especially if it's 5 games. You're down 3-1. By the way, little tease for tomorrow, the great Isaiah Thomas, the Hall of Fame point guard for the Pistons, is going to stop by 6:20 Eastern time with Eddie Johnson and myself. And, again, he'll have plenty of time to get over it. It's not going to feel good right now, but Isaiah Thomas, 1987, threw the pass to Bird, right, in Game 5, when they should have went to the NBA Finals if he doesn't do that. And he overcame it, won 2 championships a couple of years later. Had one of the great performances in Game 6, 1988, even though they lost on the bum ankle. So Cade will have time to recover, but he is going to take criticism. Imagine Isaiah if we had social media back then, especially because he wasn't really well liked in regards to being a villain. Oh, boy, would he have taken it. But there was no social media. There's social media now. Cade's going to get a lot of criticism. And, it's not all his fault. Like, look at the front office a little bit, right? They just have no shooting around him. They have a bunch of picks. They could have done something at the deadline, especially when you see all these guys that are helping other teams at the deadline. DeSumo is helping him out. Kuminga, CJ McCollum, Jose Alvarado. There's a bunch of guys that are helping teams here at the deadline. Detroit didn't do anything outside of Kevin Huerter, even though they had a lot of assets to give up. So it's not all on Cade. It's on the front office for not going for it. You got to go for it if you have a 60-win team. They didn't go for it, and the spacing around Cade really makes his job a lot more difficult. But ultimately, it's a really stunning situation. Because, you guys know I do the show from Boston. I go to just about every single game because I love to see the road team. Love to catch up with people when I go to the games, but I also want to see the road team in person. And that was the most embarrassing game I've ever been to, when they lost to the Celtics on the final day of the regular season, the G League Celtics. Jamal Mosley's job's in jeopardy. And then here we are 2 weeks later, the Magic are on the verge, that Magic team are on the verge of beating a 60-win Piston team in the first round. Really, it's unreal. And that one game in Boston, think of the butterfly effect of that one game in Boston. Like, we were so focused on the Western Conference and the butterfly effect of Denver beating San Antonio on the last day of the season and how that set it up. So, all right, Denver now is going to face Minnesota instead of Houston. That screws over Denver. Maybe it's going to screw over San Antonio because in the second round, they're going to face Denver instead of making Oklahoma City face Denver. Like, we were talking about that butterfly effect, and certainly it's in effect still because Denver would not have lost to Houston. They would have beaten Houston, and the Lakers, who are likely going to advance over Houston, would have fell to Minnesota. So the butterfly effect is just amazing. But think about the Eastern Conference. That one game against Boston might have caused both the Pistons to lose in the first round to Orlando, who they might not have faced if Orlando won that game. And then it could also force the Knicks to lose in the first round. I still think New York's going to win, but they're not out of the woods yet. And New York would have been facing Toronto instead of Atlanta. And Atlanta probably could have beat Cleveland if they faced Cleveland in the first round, the way that Cleveland is playing. Atlanta's playing better basketball than Cleveland. So think of all the ramifications of that loss for Orlando on the final day of the regular season against the G League Celtics. So again, I want to see history here, but I also feel bad for the Piston fans because that is an awesome sports city. It's a historic organization. Uh, but right now, the best story in the sport is maybe Orlando upsetting them. And you know how quickly things change because Orlando was one of the more disappointing stories during the regular season. Detroit might have been the most exciting story during the regular season. And now it could lead to a long, miserable offseason. And there's a lot of teams that could be headed towards a long, miserable offseason. Detroit could do it. New York could do it. Cleveland could do it. Denver could do it. Houston could do it. There's a lot of teams that are going to be in upheaval in the offseason, the way things are shaping up. But I guess the one good sign, we were talking about Franz Wagner, last note from this game, from Magic Pistons. The one bright side here for Detroit, Franz Wagner, they won the second half without him. He had to sit out. I don't think Orlando can win on the road in Detroit, certainly without Franz Wagner. That'll be really difficult. And they might have trouble winning all three, like any of the last three games without Franz Wagner. If he can't take the floor with the tight calf, he's out. Detroit's still got a good chance of winning this series. Much like Denver, down 3-1, now down 3-2, has a good chance of winning that series because of the injury to Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo. All right, so those are the first two games. Glad you sat with me through those. Again, I'll go back very quickly and go through the chat and answer some of these that I see. It's very difficult for me to read anyway. Never mind read and talk and do the show all at the same time. So I'll filter through some of these at the end and give some quick responses. Let's touch really quickly on Thunder and Suns. I don't have much to say on this one because I feel like you guys, and maybe somebody put in the chat here, if you focused on Thunder and Suns tonight, because everybody in Oklahoma City is giving me a lot of crap. Like, you're not talking about the Thunder here. The only reason I'm not talking about the Thunder is because the series is as boring as it gets, and we knew what the series was going to be at the outset, which is a good thing. You want a boring series if you're Oklahoma City. If it was an exciting series, which I was forced to talk about, that would mean something went wrong. All right, but everything's going right now because you make the argument SGA, after the really bad game one, where he went 5 of 18, has looked like the MVP of the postseason ever since then. He's been fantastic game 2, game 3, and game 4. I think he averaged almost 40 points per game here in the first round, and that's with the dud there in the first one. And you know, next round might even be easier. We might have to ignore that series next round too, because they're going to walk all over the Rockets or the Lakers, whichever team they end up facing. Even if Luka gets back, I think it'll be an easy series. But if Luka and Austin Reeves are out, it'll be even easier. As for the Suns, just really quickly wrapping up their season, I'm sure I'll do more with this on Sirius XM NBA Radio tomorrow with Eddie. Yeah, they got swept. Nothing but respect. And I got to get a haircut, especially if I'm going to stay up late doing this because I sweat and the hair's starting to come down. It's a complete mess. But nothing but respect for the Phoenix Suns. Everybody at the start of the season thought they were a lottery team. I looked at like the ESPN thing where they do the future rankings. I think they were dead last as far as how bright their future was. They were a disaster last season. It seemed like they were in disarray with a new coach every other year. Yet, despite the injuries, you know, to Jalen Green all season, who missed most of the year, despite, you know, Dylan Brooks missing a good chunk of time, they finished 7th during the regular season in a really difficult Western Conference, and Jordan Ott did just an incredible job. I voted for Jordan Ott 3rd for Coach of the Year, and I was pretty confident he was going to be in my top 3 from midseason on. Only Joe Mazzulla and JB Bickerstaff got that nod ahead of Jordan Ott for me. He proved he can coach, even though many people didn't even know who he was at the outset of the season. And he changed the culture. Complete 180 feeling there over the last year. They found their coach of the future. So they should feel secure in that. And I think the Suns fan, typically you're in, like a couple of years ago, you're embarrassed. You get swept in the first round against Minnesota with KD. That shouldn't be the feeling right now. You should be excited as a Suns fan. And then I'll get more into this tomorrow. Just a quick thought on Rookie of the Year. It's almost 2 a.m. I got to get some sleep. But Rookie of the Year, Cooper Flagg ends up winning it. I didn't vote for him. My ballot was Con Knipple, Cooper Flagg, VJ Edgecombe. I don't understand how anybody could vote for anybody but those two as the first two guys. But VJ Edgecombe got 1 second place vote. Con Knipple got 1 third place vote, which, again, I highly disagree with because I don't even agree with Con Knipple being second, although I can understand it. But somebody giving him a third place vote, don't understand that. Dylan Harper got 5 third place votes. Cedric Coward got 1 third place vote. And it was the closest race, I think, under this current format, outside of Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley. That was the only one that was closer. Flagg got 56 first place votes. Knipple got 44. And again, I voted for Knipple. I understand Flagg. The only thing I wonder here is some people out there said that they changed their votes or their opinions change because of the play-in tournament. We normally would never get to see a postseason game, play-in, playoffs, prior to the votes having to be in. This year, because of the 65-game rule, and they were waiting to rule on Luka and Cade Cunningham and Anthony Edwards, we got to watch a couple of play-in games. Con Knipple was horribly got benched. People said they might have altered their picks based off that, which is unfair. I honestly wonder how close it would be if we didn't have the play-in tournament and if Con Knipple might have won. Like, did 12 guys, 13 voters change their opinion based off the play-in tournament? Who knows? But it was a close vote. All right. So just running through some of the stuff that you have put in the chat. OKC versus Spurs will be the real NBA championship series. Listen, I agree that those two are the two best teams. That's going to be an awesome series. The way Boston is playing right now, I could see them. I wouldn't rule them out. Okay. Now, Boston's going to have some difficulty getting by the Knicks. They do not match up well against the Knicks. I think New York found something with Karl Anthony Towns running the offense, but Boston did play Oklahoma City really tough during the regular season. I would still favor Oklahoma City, say in 6 games, if they both got there. But I do not think that it's definitely over if that's the case. Okay, so teams don't. We got my buddy E-Rush here, has been a big supporter over the years. Writes, teams don't just come back from down 3-1. I think it's happened 13 times in NBA history, overcome a 3-1 series deficit. And, Doc Rivers, he will, he'll come, he'll blow a 3-1 series lead, right? So, that's, but he's not coaching in this one. He did with the Magic blow a 3-1 series lead years ago. Remember, to Detroit. So there's some hope for you, right? Wasn't that Detroit 3-1? Tracy McGrady started talking about how the series was over. McGrady never ended up getting out of the first round, but he mentioned that. Our buddy Chuck D is back. Chuck, I really appreciate you jumping on the live stream again. So Chuck D, Public Enemy, everybody knows who Chuck D is. Been supporting the show for years. Appreciate it, buddy. And yeah, this is an interesting storyline that Chuck D mentions. Mosley's situation changes. 100% right. Like Jamal Mosley, do you feel good for Jamal Mosley? Because Jamal Mosley was a dead man walking at the end of the regular season. It was the surest thing in all of sports. Jamal Mosley's going to get fired at the end of the year. If they come back and they win this series and beat a 60-win team, how are you going to fire him? And they have a window to get to the conference finals because Cleveland looks horrible right now. Maybe Toronto ends up winning that series. So they have a real road to get to the conference finals. If that takes place, then how do you fire Jamal Mosley? I don't see that. I don't see that happening. And he's done a nice job. And JB Bickerstaff, now he's not going anywhere, but JB Bickerstaff, all of a sudden, is the guy that's gonna end up taking the heat. I did not see USA Today's list of all-time great players. I will have to check that out. Thanks for notifying that they did that. Although I hate when they do that during the regular season or during the postseason. Like, do that over the summer. That's like a summer conversation when you're doing all that. Stuff. So, all right, it's difficult because every time I'm going and scanning this and want to talk, if somebody types something new, it goes all the way back to the bottom, so I can't see what people typed at the beginning. So if Joker and the Nuggets win this series, do they deserve credit? Yeah, I mean, they deserve credit. Coming back from 3-1 down is impressive. But, are they going to get it? No, because of all the injuries. That's one of the reasons I was glad to see Naz Reid go back out there. If they come back, you want to see him win against like a legitimate opponent. Spencer Jones, Daniel says Spencer Jones' career high is 28 against Dallas back in December. There you go. Daniel, thanks for contributing, buddy. I did not know that. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys stopping by. It's approaching 2 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for the support. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, despite the late nights. It makes the prep at least easier the next day, and I get to talk a little bit here without Eddie. So subscribe, like, comment, whatever you guys would like to do. Again, appreciate the support. You can follow along on Twitter at Termini Radio, at TERMINE Radio, Instagram, TikTok, Termini NBA, and of course, youtube.com/at Termini Radio. I did watch the Jerry West documentary. Mitty Phillips. I did. It's awesome. I recommend anybody has a free minute, watch the Jerry West documentary. Fantastic. One of my favorite players of all time, and just a great guy who would always sit down and make time for us on Sirius XM, give us a 30-minute interview at Summer League. Had an experience where I interviewed him within hours of Kobe passing away. Very emotional interview where he cried. Missed Jerry West a whole ton. Miss Jerry West a whole ton. Anyway, thanks for making it easy for me to stay up. Everybody that's contributing does make it easier for me to stay up, watch the games, and then react instantly afterwards. So thank you very much. Remember, go support Deepak, who's supporting the show, DCLA, providing all my awesome suits. They're at the dry cleaners now. I'm getting them ready for the second round, the conference finals, the NBA finals, where I'll be out of the game sporting them. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow, either here on this stream, Termini Crashes Out, or on the show on Sirius XM NBA Radio. All right, have a good night, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the game.